Gaming wasn't always the billion-dollar industry it is now. It was only in the 90s that we got games such as Doom, Mario 64, and Quake, which helped push gaming towards a more mainstream audience. The introduction of gaming consoles made it easy for people to play games at almost any time. Simply hook it up to your TV and play. But not all games were designed to be played on a TV. Most notably, real-time strategy games, which were becoming more popular at the time, all but required a keyboard and mouse. The idea of owning a personal computer at the time was almost unheard of, and as a result, RTS was considered a niche genre only played by hardcore gamers. Today, I'm going to be looking at how one game almost single-handedly changed the stereotype around RTS, a game that helped revolutionize esports and one of the best-selling games of all time, StarCraft. In this video, I'm going to be mostly ignoring StarCraft as an actual game and instead focusing on its massive impact not just for gaming as an industry, but culturally around the world. Without further ado, let's just get started. If you're watching this video, then I assume you already know the history behind StarCraft, but just in case, I'm going to quickly summarize it. Skip to the time shown on screen now if you wish to skip this section. In 1995, Blizzard Entertainment began working on a new real-time strategy game using the engine of the massively successful Warcraft 2 as base. This game would be dubbed StarCraft, no doubt to emphasize its connection to Warcraft. Blizzard focused heavily on building hype for StarCraft, having demo builds shown off at E3 in 1996. The reaction from fans to the demo was unimpressive to say the least. Many viewed the game as being a copy and paste of Warcraft 2 with slightly different graphics. Worst of all, the game was not appealing to look at and in many cases was just straight up ugly. The criticism was harsh and forced Blizzard to rethink their design for StarCraft. From 1996 to 1998, the team behind StarCraft worked to create a game that was nothing like Warcraft, and they succeeded. On March 31st, 1998, StarCraft would be released to massive critical acclaim, even blowing RTS like Warcraft 2 and Command & Conquer out of the water. It's clear that Blizzard heavily changed the game from its initial concepts, focusing on making a game that would stand on its own 2 feet and not just be called Warcraft in space. Within the first month, StarCraft had sold 1.5 million copies worldwide and would become the best-selling PC game of the year. Much of this success can be attributed to South Korea, as the people there had fallen in love with StarCraft, to the extent where it actually became a national esport, at least unofficially. Without South Korea, StarCraft would not have become the juggernaut that it is today. Now that you know the brief history of StarCraft, let's dive into why it was such a success. Unlike most RTS at the time, Blizzard poured a lot of effort into making StarCraft a beginner-friendly game free of the stereotypes that plagued the genre. Most RTS at the time were bloated and contained too many features for their own good. For newcomers, approaching a game like Warcraft 2 was daunting, having to manage 3 different resources, army control, and frustrating unit pathing was a nightmare for new players. StarCraft rectified many of these flaws, having 3 main factions, each being incredibly unique. Resource management was also simplified. Instead of having 3 resources that spawned in their own locations and had different harvesting requirements, StarCraft has 2. Both are harvested in basically the same way. Minerals are mined by your workers directly in front of your main structure, and Vespene is harvested much in the same way. The main difference between the two is that a player must construct a structure on top of a geyser in order to harvest Vespene. StarCraft games are often not about building a massive economy, as the resources needed to protect them will eventually give diminishing returns. Instead, players are encouraged to focus on 2 to 3 main gathering bases that are often placed much closer to one another. These changes were small but drastically reduced the skill floor needed to get into playing an RTS, while not necessarily lowering the skill ceiling. Blizzard's focus on player friendliness really shined through the ladder system that they implemented in StarCraft. This system allowed players of any skill level to find a match with an opponent of a similar level. This kept the game engaging for all players, as no matter who you were, the next ladder game you played would be challenging. StarCraft was not the first game to have a ladder system, but it was the reason why it became so popular. Even some of the most popular games in the world now have a ladder system that is nearly identical to StarCraft's. A quick side note that I feel is worth talking about is the state of balance in StarCraft. Most RTS have a playstyle or faction that is inarguably the best. This leads to meta builds which aren't that interesting. This is an issue that plagues games to this day. While not immune to meta, StarCraft is a very well balanced game. Some units in each faction are without a doubt more powerful than others, but the 3 factions themselves are surprisingly balanced, each faction having about a 50% win rate against the others. How Blizzard managed to do this, I have no clue. I know I've said this a lot already, but StarCraft truly was a global icon. As the game exploded in popularity, Blizzard realized that they had something truly special on their hands. Work had already begun on an expansion for StarCraft, but it was rapidly accelerated. And while people were waiting for the expansion, Blizzard kept the hype alive by encouraging and even funding several StarCraft tournaments, where players would compete to earn real money. These tournaments were massive and encouraged players of all skill levels to participate, even just for the chance to improve and win next time. The final nail that cemented StarCraft as a genre that would survive for nearly 30 years was its campaign. Compared to many other games that came before, StarCraft's story is very down-to-earth and gritty. Characters came off as real and human, even if they were actually aliens.
In my child, and embrace the glory that is your birthright. Know that I am the Overmind, the eternal will of the Swarm, and that you have been created to serve me.
To this day, Arcturus Mengsk remains my #1 choice on how to write a good villain. His betrayal of Kerrigan to the Zerg right before showing off his true colors is incredible, and came off as a genuine shock to me when I first played the game.
You're not just gonna leave him!
All ships prepare to move away from Tarsonis on my mark.
Boys, how about that evac?
Damn you, Arcturus. Don't do this.
It's done.
Base is under attack.
Signal the fleet and take us out of orbit. Now!
Commander? Jim? What the hell is going on up there?
Base is under attack.
While most RTS fans to this day are interested in the PvP aspects of the game, StarCraft, along with games like Command & Conquer, were responsible for a generation of RTS fans who played the games for the campaigns and not PvP. The missions in StarCraft 1 served as a way for players to be introduced to the game without a negative PvP encounter, while also introducing the player to the basics of each faction. The team behind StarCraft deserves praise for making a game that does its best to appeal to beginners while also not alienating their previous audience. I could rave all day about how amazing StarCraft's storytelling is, at least in the first game, but that can be a video of its own. I'll end this one here. The next video will most likely be on Brood War and its impact on the RTS scene. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know what you think down below, and I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.